You see, it's easier for me than for you because I have more talent.
In certain areas.
In any area than you could ever dream of.
How the f*** do you know that?
For the same reason that I have more talent than you could ever dream of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not much of an answer.
So I don't, so I don't think that way like you do, best or worst.
I see.
I think what I want to do or what I don't want to do. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
Not what I can do best or worst. Whereas, someone with your limitations would stick to what they do best very carefully.
You really are something else.
Yeah. In other words, you're about to say I'm a
No, I'm not saying anything.
More than I am.
What are you into? I can't believe it, man. Okay, that's a wrap.
Cut. No.
Gee, Iggy.
I'm happy to talk to you. I'm
I know, I can tell.
I'm not insulting you.
No, I know.
Come on, give Iggy a break.
I'm honoring you.
You're honoring me?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't have anything else I can do to convince you. I'm sure you can do a good cut-up job.
No, I wouldn't waste my time.
Oh, come on.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, baby.
Nice seeing you again.
Yeah, same.
Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.
Today on Rainbow Country, award-winning fashion and lifestyle journalist and the recipient of the Order of Canada, Jeanne Beker, is my guest and joins me to talk about receiving the 2025 Hollywood Reporter Impact Award. We'll also talk about her 27 years on fashion television, as well as the new music.
Hi there, I'm Bennett Singer, a documentary filmmaker and the co-director of the new film Cured, which is currently available on PBS and on the PBS video app. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Jeanne Beker, hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I am well. I am honored to have you here, Jeanne Beker. I feel like I know you even though that I don't know you.
I know. Isn't that the wonderful thing about having been on TV for, how long now has it been for me? Like, I don't know, half a century or something? Well,
and still going strong today. Okay, let's start here. Created to recognize the positive impact of Canada's very own trailblazers who have changed the narrative for women in media. The Hollywood Reporters Impact Award. You, Jeanne Beker, will be receiving the 2025 the Hollywood Reporters Impact Award. How does that make you feel?
Well, branding makes such a difference, doesn't it? I guess because it's branded Hollywood Reporter and, we kids who grew up in this country at a time when we really looked south of the border and thought of the US as, those big, rich, fancy kids that we only could aspire to be like. I mean, believe me, the sensibility has changed a lot, especially recently. But because, as an aspiring young actress, I got into the acting professionally at the age of 16. And I would go to LA, over the years, and I would always scoop up a copy of the Hollywood Reporter, and I would take it to a little cafe, and I would sit there and read the industry news, and over a cappuccino, feeling very grown up and important. And I think because this is dubbed a Hollywood Reporter Award, it almost adds a certain amount of gravitas to it for me. But at any rate, it's always a wonderful honor to be recognized as some kind of a trailblazer, for sure. And I did have the opportunity to blaze a lot of trails. I mean,
you have, whether it's fashion, whether it's music, you have been there on the forefront. In my little gay humble opinion, Jeanne Beker, did this award, did this honor, did it come as a surprise to you?
Yeah. Because last year, when they instituted this specific award in Canada, I was very dismayed that I hadn't even been invited to the ceremony and I never even knew anything about it. I mean, it was just like all of a sudden I heard, oh, there are these big Hollywood Reporter, awards going on. And I think at the time, the award that I'm getting was given to Sophie Trudeau. And I thought, well, that's nice, but I felt, I thought I wasn't even invited to the awards show. I didn't even know what was going on. I mean, I would have gladly bought a ticket, but no one told me about it until, it was too late. So when they phoned this year, or was it a phone call or actually, I think maybe it was some kind of a letter that I got through my agent, but when it was like, wow, you're kidding. I was very, very excited and, shocked and amazed.
So, Jeanne Beker, something else that you will be impacting, it is simply this. Project Runway Canada. It's coming back. You will be a judge on this new revamped version. It will be airing on Crave TV. What can you share about this up-and-coming new revamped version of Project Runway Canada?
Well, I'm just thrilled that we're doing it. It's being shot at TMU's Fashion School, which is a great location. That's a school, formerly Ryerson, that had really trained a lot of very successful Canadian designers, and a place that I actually even taught a course at several years back. So it's being shot in my own backyard, in a sense, in downtown Toronto, which is great. Coco Rocha, love her. She's going to be hosting and also judging. And I think I was at Coco's very first Paris runway show at the Jean-Paul Gaultier show when she danced an Irish jig. So I really watched her kind of grow up over the years in the trenches of fashion. She actually wrote a foreword for one of the kids' books that I wrote about modeling, strutting it, the grit behind the glamour. So I've had a long-standing love affair and relationship with Coco Rocha. So that'll be great working with her. I don't yet know who the other, there's going to be one other judge full-time. There will be a series of guest judges as well, of course. And there's going to be a mentor, of course, and they haven't announced that yet. So I don't even know who that's going to be. But it's going to be great fun. I think now more than ever is the time to really wave our flags, as Canadians. So important. When they did a couple of seasons of Project Runway Canada several years back, I think maybe it was like
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
They had approached me, but I couldn't take part because I was working for fashion television at the time, and that would have been a kind of conflict, or, in terms of the broadcaster I was working for, and then the broadcaster that would have aired Project Runway Canada. So I couldn't do it, and it was like, ugh. Shucks, but this is going to be great. I'm really excited. I mean, I was a judge for a couple of seasons on Canada's Next Top Model. So I kind of, have a feel for that, reality show judging thing. And I've been a guest judge on the Canada's Drag Race. But I must say that it is a little, I don't know, it's a little sad because sometimes, especially in these creative arenas, like especially with something like fashion, it's such a subjective thing. And it's, comparing apples and oranges, and so much has to do with the personal taste level. So I just hope that we can award a prize to someone who really shows serious possibility in becoming a successful Canadian designer, which is no easy feat.
Well said, well said. So we're talking impact, we're talking fashion. Let's move on to, of course, the 2025 Met Gala. The theme was essentially dandyism, which dates back to around the 19th century, where certain men would pay attention to their fashion, to their appearance, and really centered around, I think it's fair to say, Black men, in particular gay men. In her May 2025 editor's letter, Anna Wintour talked about Andre Leon Talley, a former editor-at-large of Vogue magazine, a fashion stylist, an author, a larger-than-life personality gone way too soon. And she called him a dandy among dandies. You, Jeanne Beker, I believe interviewed Andre Leon Talley at one point.
At one point, over the past, over the 27
Years of fashion
fashion
television.
television ran, I think I must have interviewed him like 27,000 times.
What was he like?
Yeah, we had a great relationship. He was wonderful. I absolutely adored him. He was a little troubled and certainly, there's something very sad about Andre. I remember the last interview that I did with him, the last sort of long, sit down interview I did with him. It was around the time that his documentary film was playing at the Toronto International Film Festival, and he told me just how he'd never had love in his life, love from a partner, like a romantic, sexual kind of love that had always eluded him, a relationship of that nature. And my heart just absolutely broke for him because he had so much love to give. And that was really sad that he talked about that. He also had his share of challenges with Vogue, with Anna Wintour in particular. I mean, they were very fast friends initially, and then they had a huge falling out. And, he spoke quite openly about it in his brilliant memoir, The Chiffon Trenches. But I'm glad to see that his spirit and his legacy was really honored in this way by presenting a show of this nature at the Met. I am also, though, a little disappointed that most people didn't quite rise to the occasion because Andre was like larger than life. And I felt this was a very reserved dress up occasion compared to previous Met balls.
Well said, especially coming from you. Fashion television. Launched in 1985. We were just talking about you interviewing Andre Leon Talley a number of times. Fashion television aired in over 130 countries over 27 years. How did Jeanne Beker and fashion television FT come to be? How did this all happen?
Oh, well, that's a whole long story. It just really started with an idea that a very brilliant young producer in the promos department of City TV had, Jay Levine. He, grew up with a mom who was very fashion conscious, and he saw the excitement that fashion could generate, and he thought it was a darn sexy thing. He had a real penchant for, gorgeous young women, as a lot of guys do. But he decided that it could be really cool to put a show out there that would really explore fashion, the sexiness of fashion, and not necessarily to get too esoteric and deal with it, as like hemlines and silhouettes and fabrications, but really just talking about like the spirit and the energy of fashion, which is very cool. And he wanted to do like a fashion video show because at that time, so we're talking about the mid 80s, all of a sudden, some designers started producing these fashion videos, hoping that they would do for their business what music videos had done for musicians in their businesses. But there weren't really any vehicles for these fashion. So I, at the time, was still hosting the New Music. And we would get these fashion videos sent to us, like Moses Neimer, the brilliant media visionary who ran City TV, would send over these fashion videos and say, put them on the New Music, like, because they're really cool, but we don't have anywhere else to really show them. So just put them on, and we thought, okay, well, it didn't really make sense. But all of a sudden there was Jay going, no, we should create a special vehicle where we can show these fabulous fashion videos. So when I heard rumblings of a show about fashion, I mean, listen, I was a girl who grew up in the 60s, like in love with fashion. I was always a little fashionista. And I thought, wow, I was looking for the next big thing because I'd been working in the rock and roll scene for quite a few years and I was ready for the next big thing. And I put myself forward as a host of this show. And I said, but instead of just showing these fashion videos, why don't we go and talk to some of these designers? We could go backstage, we could go into the studios, we could go behind the scenes and do with them what we used to do with the musicians on the new music. And they were like, no, we don't really want any talking heads on this show. This is just really going to be about, sexy, eye candy. So I said, okay, whatever you want to do, I'm there. I really want to do it. And I really petitioned really lobbied to get this. They wanted to give it to a model, like a young, model. They weren't looking at me, someone who, not that I was that old at that point, but by that point, I guess I was like, early 30s, early 30s. I had sort of, I don't know, I'd already been around a little bit. And I think they were really looking for a model. But I said, no, you owe it to me. I've worked so hard. Come on, I'm looking for the next big thing. So finally they said, okay, we'll let you host the pilot. So I hosted the pilot and it was really well received, except then, the execs came to me and said, you know what, this show really has potential, but I think it would be great to have some talking heads in it. I think it would be great if we could go into their studio. So for the next show, because it got green lit, we'll go to New York and, do some interviews with some designers. And I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do. So we went to New York and we visited Bob Mackey's studio and Betsy Johnson. I remember we did a big profile piece on the Roots Boys. And that was the birth of fashion television. That went over remarkably well. And then we just started churning out this incredible series. We did 39 episodes a year for 27 years. I mean, we had a lot of shows. And we worked our tails off and traveled all over the world and just had the grandest time. And it really was the first window onto that glamorous world for so many kids, especially who were growing up, in the boonies or growing up in, in rural places and places that really didn't have, they weren't exposed to fashion in that way before. And all of a sudden, and especially like a lot of the gay kids started thinking, wow, maybe there is a place for me in that world. I think we really showed them that there were incredible possibilities and there were fabulous people out there that didn't, sort of conform to a lot of the, the norms. And
you helped to give them a voice, those queer LGBT fashion designers.
Yeah. I mean, that has been my biggest joy, to think that so many of the fashion arbiters in the world today that grew up watching that show became industry professionals, whether they were designers or makeup artists or hairdressers or fashion show producers or photographers, some of the models. I mean, so many of these kids that grew up with that show was like a lifeline for them. And a lot of people have come up to me and said, that show kind of saved me. Like it kind of, saved my life. I know that sounds pretty grandiose. I mean, I don't want to take credit for that, but I think just being able to see themselves in our show, in a sense, and to be able to see that there were possibilities, and there was a place for them in the outside world, I think that really meant a lot. And boy, that touches me every time I hear those stories.
Jeanne Beker, I think it's fair to say that what goes really well with fashion is music. And you were just talking about fashion television, but coming from the new music that ran from 1979 to 2008, you and A1 J.D. Roberts at the time, the two of you co-hosted this it was a groundbreaking show. And what are some of the memories? What are some of the situations or the individuals from where you are today, looking back on your time on the new music? What stands out to you? Are there situations per people?
Too many, Mark, too many. I have to say, that's like one of the questions that sort of like get my back up a bit about, because I've had such an extraordinary life, such an extraordinary run with these two remarkable, groundbreaking shows, as you say, at a time when
it was on the cutting edge.
Making it up as we went along.
Exactly.
There were no rules. So we did things in such an unconventional way. Again, thanks to the brilliance of Moses Neimer and the genius John Martin, who really stylistically gave us the inspiration for the way we did the new music, because it was very irreverent and it was very in your face. And we would go out with like me and a cameraman. That was it. Rarely went anywhere with a producer or with any kind of like audio guys or lighting guys or anything. It was just like a cameraman and me. Sometimes JD and I went out together to do a story because we'd be, jealous, fighting over, no, I want to interview Bob Geldof. No, I want to interview Bob. They said, okay, you both go do it. But for the most part, it was really, this incredible one-man band operation. When you talk about like the cameraman was it, shooting these incredible scenarios and these people, the rock stars who weren't used to being on TV, because we started that show in 1979. That was pre-MTV. MTV wasn't even a thing. And the only other music shows that were on TV at the time were shows like Shindig, Hullabaloo, Dick Clark, American Bandstand, Top of the Pops in the UK. And for shows like that, the musician would come on into the studio and would perform, and then a DJ type person would come and interview them for a few minutes. But we were riding on the smoky tour buses with these musicians. We were going into the studios with them. We were hanging out in their hotel rooms with them. We were, the scenarios were just incredibly fantastic. I interviewed Andy Summers in a bathtub, actually at the time I was just sitting on the ledge of the bathtub. He was in the bathtub. Years later, I got into the bathtub with him for a fashion television story, but that's a whole other thing. So a lot of these stories, I've written about in my book. I have a book that just came out last fall called Heart on My Sleeve.
Stories from a well-worn life. Your memoir.
Stories from a life well-worn, yeah. So that, so there, I put a lot of those stories out there. There's still many, 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 many more to be told. But I really got a chance to get up close and personal with some of my childhood idols. Whoever thought that I'd be, conversing with Paul McCartney or Keith Richards or Roger Daltrey or Robert Plant or
Iggy Pop.
Incredible. Oh, Iggy! Wow, that's a whole other story. Yeah, you read the book for the lowdown on that one. But I really had a most magical time doing that show, the new music. It was just a laugh. It was crazy. It was beyond my wildest fantasies.
Did this all start for you on CBC Radio in St. John's, Newfoundland?
Well, my media career definitely started there in a way. I mean, I started acting professionally with a CBC sitcom, actually, TV sitcom called Toby back in 1968. And then, I went off to New York to study acting, and I was getting parts in commercials and a few TV movies and different shows. But I really got into this very strange art form called mime. And I went to study mime in
Paris, France.
In 1973, 1974, because I hated the sound of my voice. I thought it was irritating, and probably some people still think it might be. And I really loved the idea of corporal expression and the idea of pure communication and the idea of really mastering a technique. And in mime, you either create the illusion or you don't. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And it's such a pure form of communication, like so beyond words. So I went to study that. Then I moved back to Toronto. In 1975, I ended up with this guy that I was, he had been my boyfriend for a couple of years, really, and we were madly in love. And he got the chance to do postgraduate work in folklore at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland. And, he said, hey, want to go to Newfoundland with me? And I was like, well, if you marry me, I'll go. And he was like, okay, we got married and we moved to Newfoundland the next day. This was in 1975. And here I was, the only mime artist in the province. And it's like, I thought, okay, I better get myself a real job because I don't think this is necessarily going to help pay the rent. So I thought, what do I know a lot about? I know a lot about the arts. I studied acting in New York and I'd studied mime in Paris and I'd studied theater at university. So I pitched myself as an arts reporter at CBC Radio, and they went for it. And this was before CBC was covering the arts. I know now it's like, wow, that's mostly what they cover. But in those days, they weren't they were covering things like, the fisheries and the oil refineries, and they were doing consumer shows. But I pitched myself as an arts reporter because there's such a lively art scene going on in St. John's, and it just took off. So I worked there for 3 years. And then when I came back to Toronto in 1978 with an arsenal of, radio tapes, and I'd done all this wonderful work for CBC Radio, I got hired by Chum Radio, 1050 Chum, which was the great station that I grew up listening to as a kid. And they hired me as their good news girl. And that was the year that they bought this funky little cable station called City TV. So they wanted to cross promote their personalities. And I was the chick, and J.D. Roberts, who was the boss jock at the time, now John Roberts of Fox News.
Fox News, hello.
Yeah, so we went over to the TV side of things, and that's how the whole thing happened.
A love letter to fashion, Bryan Adams. Jeanne Beker was my first fashion guru, Kim Cattrall. Just a quick couple quotes from your 2024 memoir, Heart on My Sleeve, Stories from a Life Well Worn. Okay, whether it's CBC Radio or the new music or fashion television or Style Matters on the shopping channel that you're doing to this day, or studying mime in Paris, France, here's my last question for you, Jeanne Beker, and it's simply this. What has made the most impact on you? What would you say? Is it the things that you've done professionally? Is it your family? Is it individuals that you've come across on your journey through the tapestry that is your life? For you, what has made the most impact on Jeanne Beker, would you say?
Well, I mean, Mark, truly all of the above. I mean, of course, the people that have, grown up watching me, the people that I have met in my career, some of the greatest, luminaries in entertainment and fashion. And certainly, my family is just, means so incredibly much to me. But I really must say that I think the cancer journey that I was on a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2022. That had an incredible impact on me because that made me really see life for what it is and made me understand just how tough I could be, and that I was a survivor after all, and that I did have the right attitude to get me through it. And that gave me a lot of kind of a lot of belief in myself. I knew that the journey, as daunting and scary as it was initially, would make me a bigger, better, bolder, braver, wiser, more courageous person. And I think it did. And then being able to share my journey so publicly as I did with all my followers, my Instagram followers, that was such a heart-swelling experience. I mean, all these people that reached out to me with their prayers and their good wishes and their own personal stories just filled my heart to such a degree and really restored my faith in humanity. It really was a journey that was just filled with so many silver linings, and I met so many incredibly inspiring people as a result. And even to this day, I work very closely with Princess Margaret Cancer Center, And I just can't do enough for that place. I think of it as my temple of healing, that incredible place. It's such a really a port in the storm for so many of us who not only have lived with cancer, but have, perhaps survived it, because it's something that never really leaves you, once you go through it. So anyway, that's, I think, maybe what's had the most impact on me.
Jeanne Beker, well said, well done, well lived. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. Such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Mark, so nice talking. Sorry, I talked so much, right? For a former mime artist, it's like I'm making up the last time. I never shut up now.
I love your Order of Canada pin. Well done.
Oh, I wear
well
it
earned.
like my best accessory. My best accessory. Yeah.